All right. So are we good to go? Whitney, are we good to go?
Yes, I'm good to go. Hi, everyone.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to the first edition of our African Data Conversations that we try to do from time to time to have conversations about new technology and new systems that are happening within the data space in Africa. And I want to first of all apologize for the time factor due to unforeseen circumstances. We had to scale it back a little bit, but I'm glad that we're able to still go ahead to do it. And we've been planning for this for a couple of months now. I'm working with Whitney and Julius to put this together. So welcome everyone to this first edition for the year 2026, where we're going to be having a great conversation that is going to be focused on voice AI and ground intelligence data collection in Africa. And we have Whitney with us. Whitney is the VP of Partnerships in Francophone and West Africa for Viamo Inc. Hi, Whitney. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Glad to be here. Thanks, Sore.
All right, so I'm just going to jump straight into it so we don't like waste time. If you don't know me, I'm Orolu Adebayo. I'm currently the managing co-founder with WeCollect, and in just a couple of minutes, I will be telling you what WeCollect does, and we'll be able to kick the conversations from there. So, just in a nutshell, WeCollect is a data collection tool that focuses on using geographical information system and artificial intelligence, and we're merging that with a distributed network of agents to make data accessible and close the data gap in Africa. Um, we have a couple of features that works on the application, and a lot of them are listed on the screen. But one of them that I want to just give talk about, which would actually be lead to part of what we'll be talking about today, is Geo AI and data validation algorithm that is part of our tool. It's cutting-edge technology that we've been able to develop to ensure that data that is collected from the field is accurate and is being processed fast. Just to give you a glimpse to how it works, just with 5 steps and a couple of hours, you can get data from anywhere in Nigeria and Africa. Currently, we have a distributed network of agents across the 774 local governments in Nigeria, and that actually enables us to collect data from anywhere in Nigeria fast. Right now, we have a record time of 72 hours, and we are open to improve that time as time goes on. So just a couple of steps. You make a data request on our website. Then we have a project briefing to just confirm your survey questionnaire. Then we deploy the project, goes through the data validation phase, and you get your project delivery. Bear in mind that all of this can happen in 72 hours. We have a couple of customers and organizations across the continent that we've worked with in the past. And yeah, and I think we've been able to build a repository from that. So just to jump right into it, why are we even having this conversation? Why is it important for us to have conversations about data in Africa? Everyone would agree with me that data is collecting data right now in Africa. It's a big deal, and even with the emergence of artificial intelligence and the new type of technologies that exist, a lot of them are edged on existing data, and there's a huge gap of data in Africa. And we feel that starting these conversations would help us talk about what we need to do and create action steps that would help us move forward on closing that data gap. So yeah, that's what the idea behind the conversation is. So I'm just going to jump right into it to give you an intro to our guest today. We would probably steer up the conversations from there. Um, Meet Whitney. Whitney is the current VP of Partnerships in Francophone and West Africa for Viamo Inc. She used to be the current country manager at DRC Human Network International. She also worked as a program consultant for UNDP. Also, He has an MA from for International Political Economic and Development from Fordham University, and she has a bachelor's in International Relations from Bethany College. Just to give a brief citation about Whitney so that you have an idea of where all this knowledge is coming from. She's worked across Africa, and I think that work experience has qualified her to be able to speak on this conversation, and also an opportunity for us to hear about what they are doing in Viamo. But just to run through her, in her role currently, she leads the regional partnership strategy and new business initiatives, working with governments and NGOs, private sector partners, and development agencies to expand digital engagement and information platform across Francophone Africa. She has over a decade of experience in deploying technology-enabled solutions that reach millions of people. Whitney has built deep expertise in forging cross-border, cross-sector collaborations and driving inclusive programs that connect underserved communities through voice, SMS, and data services. Prior to leading a partnership at Viamo, she developed her skills in international development and technology engagement, focusing on projects that bridge information access gap and empower local stakeholders to improve social outcome. So, welcome, Whitney. I'm sure this doesn't necessarily explain all you've done in the last 10 years, in more than 10 years that you've started your work experience, but I'm hoping that this would give the audience an idea of the wealth of knowledge that you have and the reason why you are the right person to have this conversation. But welcome once again, Whitney.
Thank you so much. Yes, and just to say that Viamo is bolstered also by our country operation. So I actually have some colleagues joining from our Nigeria office as well. So I'm not alone, but I will speak as a representative of Viamo and our Africa country programs today.
Okay. All right. The so I will give you the floor so you can talk about the work that the team does with Viamo, and we would hope that that would help us steer the conversation towards talking about how voice AI is helping organizations collect data better, interpret the data faster. So over to you, Whitney.
Great. Thank you so much, Ori. I think I would start off by saying, for those who don't know Viama, we could have some partners on the call who know us very well, and maybe others who have never heard of us. So because we're a little bit of a niche organization, it is important to explain what we do and why we do it. So first of all, our name, VIA, it stands for Via Mobile, Viamo for short. So our mission when we got started, what is it now, 13 years ago, we were inspired by the exponential rate of growth in mobile subscriber data and access to phones, even feature phones, before smartphones became so popular. And even today, we're inspired by the number of people who still remain disconnected from the internet. So our mission at Viamo is to bring essentially the sum of all human knowledge with the advent of AI technology to those who might only have a Nokia feature phone and for a variety of reasons don't yet have access to the internet. So we're trying to connect and build bridges between the digitally disconnected and partner organizations like the UN agencies, the governments, the private sector partnerships that can help connect people with services that can either enhance their lives or even save their lives in some of the humanitarian contexts in which we work. So we do this primarily through voice. I would say 95% of our programs use some form of voice, whether it's interactive voice response technology, which I think for the first 11 years of our existence was the primary channel that we use. But more and more with the technological gains that have been made in the past couple of years with AI technology and with voice recognition. We've we're putting a lot of our eggs in the basket of voice AI because in our initial experiments with it in places like Nigeria, Zambia, Rwanda, what we've seen in terms of opening up access to users who can benefit from that technology and from that, again, unprecedented access to information, then the better. So we continue to be inspired by that in our mission. Yes, I see you've shared some slides. I probably it depends who's on this call, but I think a lot of you working in humanitarian contexts, development sector, have probably encountered some of these issues that can become challenges in our work. The first is reach, how to overcome access barriers, which could be geographic, how to reach the hardest to reach parts of the country or the most insecure or conflict prone parts of a country, how to reach people where they are in terms of the technology that they have access to. Again, with an emphasis on the people that don't yet benefit from smartphones, or even when they have smartphones, may not have the purchasing power to be able to purchase data plans on those phones. And reaching people in their languages. That's fundamental to who we are at Viama. We've always worked in local languages, and that will remain in the years to come very important to this voice AI work as well. And the second is scale. We heard from a lot of partners, especially last year with the changes that happened in the development sector with the sudden decrease in donor funding, the increased need to be able to do more with less, you reach more people with reduced funding levels. And then this links to the third challenge as well, because the remaining donors out there still insist on knowing, so what? For you, first of all, what are you doing? Who are you reaching? And what behavior change indicators are you able to move the needle on? And I think that of all of it, that's where the partnership with We Collect is something that we're excited about, because this is where, combining the voice AI technology and the scale that Viamo has reached with partners that are doing on the ground verification of data, research, to help show the gains that have been made in some of these communication and training programs. That's where combining our forces will be super interesting. I think over to you, Ore.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And I think I'm pretty excited, and I'm sure there are some people outside of within our own audience that are hearing this for the first time about like what you do and how you do it. And I'm sure that they are pretty much inspired to see how much you've been able to do so much work. And I think one thing that caught my own attention was the fact that you're providing value for money, where you said we can do more with less, where we're trying to reach everywhere across the continent, but not try to break the bank while doing it. So I will just go ahead and kick off the conversations from here, and hopefully we'll be able to have a great conversation. 1 minute, let me pop that out. All right. So I think the first question that is on everyone's mind because of the title of this particular conversation is voice AI. And if if you ask me, I'm thinking the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear voice AI is, and to be honest, after a lot of research, I figured out what it was. But like I believe that maybe I'm not one of the smart ones, but I know that the first thing that comes to mind when I hear voice AI is probably an AI avatar speaking. So, from your own point of view, what do you think? Like, I don't want to make it cliche, but what is voice AI?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, let me start. Yeah, let me ground the conversation in what exactly we're talking about when Viamo says voice AI. So, at a very simple level, our technology starts with the most basic devices out there. The simple mobile phone. So, we're talking about phone calls that are not internet enabled, right? People interact with Viamo by voice. Calling into a toll-free line, for example, um, and they listen, they respond, they ask questions in their own language without needing the internet. So this helps to overcome barriers related to access to internet, literacy, because we're using voice and language access, which I think a lot of you would know. Like European languages dominate the information available on the internet. So by um, connecting our voice AI with speech to text and text to speech tools, doing automatic translations of these local languages, that opens up again, the sum of all human knowledge that is available on an LLM like ChatGPT. You're bringing that suddenly to people who may only speak Hausa,
Mm.
who wouldn't have had access to that information before. So, yeah, to ground it in technical terms, we're talking about bringing the benefits of something like ChatGPT to voice and local languages over a simple phone call.
So yeah, I think that explains it because it is very important, especially for the African context. Because I think, for example, in Nigeria, we have over 100 languages or 50 languages in Nigeria alone, not to talk of the entire Africa. So I believe that it simply means that with the voice AI, you can communicate across languages and it will make sense to whoever is listening. Is that what it is?
Yes, exactly. So it's
Okay.
the in the West here we now a lot of people are using things like Gemini, ChatGPT, so many of these AI tools as a daily on a daily basis as part of our daily work. We're trying to bring those benefits to people who otherwise would be years or decades away from gaining access to those tools. We're trying to leapfrog so that a young mother in northern Nigeria who only speaks Hausa and only has a simple Nokia phone can dial into a number and gain access to the same sorts of guidance and information.
Yeah, and also I want to use this opportunity to say congrats on the
Mhm.
recent UNICEF reference for Viamo's advancement in innovating ways to reach communities and population with the contextual compatible tool. So I would, and I'm sure you would agree that with the kind of technology that Viamo is building is very contextual, and I believe that that is where the idea of voice AI came from. We are building real tools for real people, and I think to me it makes a lot of sense because instead of just creating what is trending, we're actually creating what is useful. So, but I think my next question would be, for voice AI or for like this technology that we're exploring, how important is ground intelligence with this?
Mm, yeah. Um, for me, I see it as two sides of the same coin. So the voice solution gives us a sort of breadth. We can hear from millions of people quickly and inclusively. I didn't mention the scale that we work with at Viamo, but that's one of the things that makes this interesting. The fact that, like, just to give the viewers an idea of scale, in Nigeria, for example, we received last year in 2025 150 million phone calls from over 6 million Nigerians. Um, so that's the sort of wide reaching breadth that we're talking about. But the ground intelligence that comes with working with an organization like We Collect is the other side of that coin. It gives us the depth, right? So validating the context, the behavior in the real world. So when you fuse them together, you get evidence that leaders can act upon at speed. Um, so instead of waiting months and months for some kind of let's say mid term evaluation, you can send a partner like We Collect out to validate your statistic. For example, we'll have user statistics in a beautiful dashboard showing that millions of people have heard some kind of behavior change campaign
Mm.
information. And then we collect, would be our partner on the ground going out to some of those like locations to gather real world insights and solid evidence in terms of how the needle has moved on the behavior change.
Okay, and I think that's it. It's more
Mhm.
like you said, two sides of the coin, where the voice AI is giving you that, then the ground intelligence is more of like giving you like more validation. So I think we it just ensures that we are getting 100% accuracy from whatever we're listening from the ground. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
So I think one way we've answered the question of how it stands out because of, and I think one one takeaway for me of how this particular technology stands out is the contextual approach because of there's a they're like the language barrier, and even like in a country like Cameroon where they are kind of they have like two major languages that they speak, where we have the side that speaks French and we have the side that speaks English, and voice AI would looks like the perfect tool to help us collect data from like if you want to like listen to what is going on in the entire country. Using the type of technology is like the perfect technology for that. Is that okay? Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And it's the part of the mission that inspires me most. We believe at Viamo that information is power, and the ability to be heard is essentially a human right. So we're trying to bridge that gap even in places like you mentioned where people don't have internet access and in across the variety of languages that are out there to make sure that people can still be heard.
Okay. So what are certain use cases? I can start in
Mhm.
terms of use cases, and this is one of the use cases that is very interesting to me because sometime last year we embarked on a project where we were doing more of like some key informant interviews where we had to um, do recordings for people in somewhere in northern Nigeria, and they were all speaking Hausa. And we now had to get a desk review team to listen to everything they were saying and transcribe that into like a text format, a report and whatnot. And I think when I started doing my research on what voice AI is, I was like, this is a fantastic use case because we're able to speed up that process. We're able to, first of all, we're able to deploy fast, which is what We Collect already does, but we can now speed up whatever middle analytic process because the moment we're listening to them on the field, it just automatically gives you maybe a report and is able to observe the tone, the emotions that exist while they are speaking, not trusting on whoever is interpreting that. So I would say that what other use cases do you think voice AI would help in making things better and faster and also ensuring accuracy in the data that's being collected?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just to give a quick example off the top of my head of like where I would love to see our partnership go, is we're currently part of the measles rubella vaccination campaign in Nigeria. And so we're targeting, 50,000 people to, with a behavior change message, right? We're trying to overcome some of the vaccine hesitancy, convince people to take their children to be vaccinated. And um, so what we can see on our end is how many people listen to the messages. But it would be great to have that on the ground verification where we combine forces, Viamo, we collect, and you help to feed in uh, the real world impact data. You've gone to the field and interviewed some of these people who listened to the messages to find out what did they do after the fact. Did they end up taking the child to be vaccinated? Um, yeah. I can think of a lot of examples. One thing we're really excited about with the scale of this kind of voice AI technology in a place like Nigeria and other countries like Rwanda and Zambia, where we've been testing, is that It's really interesting for something like disease surveillance.
Mm,
People are calling in. The tool is open for them to ask any question that they want in the same way that you open up ChatGPT and you can put in any question off the top of your head. So for the first time in Viama's history, we can see exactly what people are interested in learning about, the types of concerns that they have. Because, before AI, we would have had to guess at what they're interested in, working with partners like UNICEF to, we're guessing at questions people might have related to nutrition or WASH. Whereas now with voice AI, like we can see the real-time data of what they're asking. Um, and, for something like disease surveillance, if people start asking more about HIV or malaria, that can actually trigger
mm.
some kind of response from the Ministry of Health.
Okay, okay, and I think one and just to put more context to that, I believe that one of the things our partnership would be is when you gather all this information, then we're able to get you more of these informations geolocated, where as you get all the information from the field, we are also able to go back to those locations and now validate the data and now give you more of a location angle to the data that is being collected and maybe put them on a map or something. But I think it
Mhm.
just gives more context to the the location of where the data is coming from. But let's just kind of move ahead. I think good. The conversation has helped us answer a couple of questions. But I think because what I was going to ask is what has been the impact so far, and
Mhm.
you've talked about a couple, but I think I would try to expand on this a little bit. So, which of these impacts have excited you the most?
Mhm. Well, I mean, we have from our past work, even before the voice AI, I mean, we've been part of very exciting projects like our integrated health program, one of our former USAID projects. We were able to see, I think it was by sending out automated appointment reminders by voice in local languages, we were able to increase the antenatal attendance rates by 37%. We were able to see an impact on decreasing maternal mortality rates. So there are lots of really interesting projects I could speak about. But now, I mean, the voice AI is new enough that we're excited about working with partners like We Collect and Viamo have now signed this MOU, and we're going to look for these case studies because, like, I could tell you, we're just at the starting point of seeing, like, again, seeing the types of questions that people are asking through voice AI. The statistics are really impressive. Like just last week, in a 6-day time frame, we received over 400,000 voice AI questions from over 100,000 people. So that's a lot of data to analyze. Um, so in terms of the impact, that's where a partner like We Collect will come in to help us, to go to some of these locations, interview users to understand what has the actual impact. Now that they have the information, what have they then acted upon in their real world lives?
Yeah, yeah. And to be honest, I'm blown away by the numbers. And I think one thing that I would look at is speed, like looking at how fast you can get all these data sets together. And because there's a popular saying within the data space is that yesterday was the best time to collect the data. So whatever data, the more you waste time in collecting and analyzing the data sets, the more you need to collect more data. So things keep changing, which results to like data being generated, and it's always best if we have a working system that can get us data at speed. So which leads me to the next wave of questions. And I would say that we've talked about use cases, we've talked about the impacts, we've talked about what the technology is about, but this is 2026, where a lot of like every day I'm reading a technology newsletter and I'm seeing a new technology coming up. every day we see new chat boxes coming out. So I think which is very relevant to these conversations because we have a network of students that we work with in terms of helping them out with research, and some of them are on this call. And I'm sure there's one question they're asking themselves: what would be the opportunity in terms of utilizing voice AI in 2026?
Yeah, so what I am excited about for 2026, I mean, I think this will be a key year for voice AI technology. One thing I would love to see just in general in Africa is for African countries to leapfrog the technology once again. You know, we have those examples from history of like mobile money. That was one area where um, African countries have been ahead of the curve in adopting a technology like that. You know, it makes sense. They don't need like these historical, old-fashioned way of doing. You know, you can leapfrog. In the same way, also, you know, with landline telephone, you know, Africa just leaped ahead to mobile phone technology directly. So I think there's an opportunity again for voice AI. You know, we're seeing it happen slowly in Western countries where, you know, sometimes I ask myself why, you know, why are we still typing with our thumbs on these little devices when we could use voice prompts more? The technology is there, but there's still some hesitation, you know, with people not making the transition. We're starting to see it a little bit with, you know, now more and more people when they interface with ChatGPT, they're just using the voice input, but I think in Africa, there's even more of an opportunity to go in that direction. So we're very pleased at Biamo that we're helping to be part of this change. We're hoping to work with governments and ministries to help them to open a public interface with communities, with individuals and their, you know, citizens, um, so that they can interact more naturally through something like voice AI, as opposed to having, for example, some kind of call center that's not able to
Mm.
scale in the same way. Um, so yeah, I think there are lots of opportunities. We didn't talk about some of the potential use cases with like We Collect and Viamo. I think we had discussed some potential use cases for things like early warning systems that
Yeah,
could be really revolutionary in places, you know, something like an early warning system for nutrition or food security in northern Nigeria, or we talked about like detecting early signs through voice-based monitoring of things like changes in diet or access to food,
yeah.
or something like farmers being able to report market shocks or crop diseases or crop stress that could trigger things like a response to prevent famine in some places. So at Vialma, we're excited to potentially work with WeCollect, and potentially other partners who are listening to this could be part of these partnerships as well.
Okay. So interestingly, because you talked about like diets, and interestingly, one thing we do as a team is every year we pick out a data point that we are interested in, and I think in 2024 we tracked food prices across the country, and just while we were doing that, we figured that okay, for 2025, what we did was we tracked diet quality. So same pattern, people were reporting out. And I think the one of the drive for that, especially for the diet quality, was for us to be able to um, create like early warning signs, like a listening post, because I read up on it on a research paper talking about how the most of the listening posts that exist are stale, and in most cases they are hearing about the outbreak after the outbreak has been done. So, and just listening to you, see what can be done using voice AI. I think voice AI and with the voice AI as a technology that is built by Viamo I think, is the best solution for those kind of listening posts to be able to detect an outbreak way before it happens, which is it collects data across a period of time, listening to what people are maybe letting people communicate what they are eating, let people communicate how their diets are going, and crunching all that data across different locations, which is something we have a partnership that can also be implemented, is where we can now be able to detect and give like a warning to say that okay, in this certain local government, in this certain state, there's likely to be a maybe low calcium among the kids that are growing, just because we've been able to harvest that, literally listen to what people are saying about their diets in that certain location. So I'm seeing like very, very interesting use cases, and I'm sure people in the audience are excited of what is to come. And I would say for a fact that this is what technology should be done, should be. Technology should be a way to make things easier and done better, not taking away the human angle, but just making it faster and more accurate. So moving on, not to dwell so much on this, um, and well, good thing is we're touching base with everything already. So, but I would say that I will still ask the question regardless. So, you've talked about our partnership and what the impact of the partnership would look like, but just to speak directly to what that how we hope that this partnership will help in improving the technology.
Yes, and maybe I'll keep it quite brief so that we can have time,
Take
for
question. Yeah.
participants' questions. I'm eager to hear from everyone. But all of this is new, right? The voice AI technology, generative AI is new. This past year, 2025, was a huge year in terms of advancements in AI technology. It's all moving very quickly. So, as I mentioned, Viamo is, we're just seeing like the types of questions that people are asking, the types of use cases that could be applicable based on some of the questions and insights that we're gathering. So I I I count on WeCollect to help us analyze, gather insights on the ground to help support what we're seeing in our dashboards and in the transcripts of questions, because it's all moving so fast that I could see ways in which, um, like, I'll give you a concrete example of improving the technology. Guardrails is a big topic in AI, right? Like, especially in some of our local contexts in which we work, there could be a political sensitivity to some questions being asked. There often there's a need to localize the answers that are being given. So yeah, I could definitely see this partnership helping us to refine the answers, help put guardrails on perhaps some more sensitive topics where, maybe something like mental health, where there needs to be a referral in times of crisis when people are reaching out with severe mental health issues. And maybe we don't want to be giving AI answers automatically on some of those topics.
All right. Thank you. And just one last thing. And I think before you, by the way, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat while I ask my own personal question. Now, this is my question as Orolua, not even in, yeah, I'm Recollect, but this is more personal to me. And I think the question is how, okay, do you train the AI from time to time with the data that has been collected, and what what's that compute like?
Mm. Yeah, it's a big question. So we've touched a little bit on how the technology works, but at Viamo we have two types. We have two products, let's say. We have Ask Viamo Anything,
Okay.
which is essentially like the Chat GPT version, the LLM. Maybe there's some light training, like I said, to put guardrails on types of questions that we don't feel we should be answering in certain local contexts. Um, but it's more of an LLM in its setup, it's more open. And then there's Ask an Expert, which is not reliant on LLM technology, large language model, but it's more, it's on RAG technology, which is curated, right? That's the trained model. You know, you've uploaded your documents that becomes a repository that the AI searches within to gather the answer. So that is much more, I would say, trainable and curated. So the use case there is like, for example, we worked with the Ministry of Health in Nigeria to have um, a a voice AI available for community health workers.
Mm.
So they were able to call into a number and give a prompt to the AI technology that then searched within the community health protocols and standing orders. So it was the response that was given was based on their own protocols, you know, what you should do in this situation. So if the community health worker said, you know, I have this patient, community member who has these symptoms, I don't know what to do, the AI would tell them based on their repository of knowledge the next steps that they should take. And there was also a supervisory dashboard. So the supervisor of the community health worker could um, could intervene in case there was a need to do so.
Okay. Um, okay. Interesting. And just going to go to the chat box to see if we have any question. And please, if you have a question, this is the best time to put it in the chat box, and so that Whitney can answer them. And also, we have a link to a feedback form. So if you have feedback on the webinar, on maybe what you want to see on the next episode, on the next session that we would have, you can also drop that in the feedback form, or you just want to hear from us. I talked about earlier that to reach out to us if you want to make a data request, you just need to visit recollect.tech/data request, and we'll be able to take that from you. But in the meantime, if you have any question, we just give 2 minutes. Feel free to drop them in the chat. And let's just see if we can just go on. So, like, before we go to next steps, let me just hold on for a minute to see if what the audience are saying. 1 minute. I don't see any question here. Um, maybe somebody is typing a question. Just wait a minute. Hmm. Okay, looks like we don't have any question in the chat. 1 more minute. Ask questions. Whitney is here to answer all your questions. So I think this is the best time to keep the conversation going. Um, anyone? All right. Whitney, nobody has any question for you. Looks like you were very explanatory in all the statement. But I think this was a great conversation. This was a needed conversation because what Viamo is building, it's I think is revolutionary because of, like we talked about earlier, the context of Africa. I think one of the issues I've always had, and which is one of the things that spiraled into what we're doing with WeCollect, is bringing technology that is useful in the western region and bringing them into Africa. Forgetting that Africa is a very very niche continent where things that work in the West may not necessarily work over here, except because we are a very diverse people, multicultural, multi language, and a lot of things like keeps us like defines us. So I think and I believe that even the work you're doing, even from the way from reaching people in on underserved areas where there are no internet connection, being able to create a technology to listen to them for even people that don't have access to smartphones, which is a thing in Africa compared to like a lot of the technology that exists that would just already assume that everybody has access to a smartphone. So I would give big kudos to Viamo for being very, very intentional about building technology for Africa. So next steps. Like we spoke about earlier, WeCollect and Viamo have a partnership. But if you still want to work with either WeCollect or Viamo, feel free to reach out to either myself or or Whitney. We are always ready to jump on a conversation. Or if you think what the kind of partnership we have is something that would interest you as an organization or as an individual, feel free to reach out to either of the two of us. Then, like I said earlier, we have a feedback form in the chat anyone that has any feedback. Okay. We have a question. Okay, let me finish my thought process. So anyone that has any feedback should feel free to fill in the form, let us know what your thoughts are, and we'll take it from there. But before we continue, let's quickly take a question. So, Whitney, I think this is to you. What is the cost implication of voice AI in data collection when it comes to the African market?
Yeah. Um, there's a lot that has to be like in terms of the bones, the infrastructure of how it works. So, um, first of all, when you're doing anything over live phone calls, you have to figure out the cost of airtime. So I think that's where Viamo's strategy with our Viamo platform helps to solve part of that problem because we've spent years negotiating in about 20 African countries to get free airtime agreements from key, strategic partners among the telco partners. So, like for example, that's how we're able to receive, 150 million phone calls in Nigeria last year. That is a critical piece that we have figured out. But the other piece of it is the cost of compute. Oh, can you still see me? We might have lost Ore.
Oh no,
Oh, there.
yes, I'm right checking. Yeah.
So the cost of compute is um, is another pass-through cost, essentially, of making this whole framework work. So it, we have some, at least short-term agreements to make that work from some of our partners like OpenAI and Google, Gemini. So that's enabled us to have this high-scale experiment, multiple experiments in a few key countries. But it's a big question mark for, because we don't know yet the direction that those compute costs are headed in. These tokens, you hear a lot about the AI tokens. Those have become expensive or even valuable. Sometimes there aren't enough of these tokens to go around. So at Viamo, that's a focus of this year going forward is to make sure that we can make this sustainable at scale so that to keep those costs as low as possible so that it can be a viable pathway. So far so good, but we are working on more sustainable long-term solutions.
Yeah, okay. I just asked the question because I knew that that was just so direct. The person was like, yo, how much does this cost? But like you've been able to break it down to say all that comes to play in putting a price tag on it. And it's not exactly direct in putting a price tag on it. So I think we're done taking questions so that we can wrap up early. Thank you very much, Whitney. I'm really excited about what is to come in terms of the technology, in terms of our partnership, and just ensuring that we are able to still make impact, as much impact as we can in Africa as a whole, and also close the data gap, because that's one thing I'm sure that we both are driving towards, ensuring that um, there's enough data about Africa, and the data should be within the African context. Do you have any final words to the audience?
For me, no, I just have final words for you, Ore, Julius, the team at We Collect. Thank you so much for this supportive partnership, for inviting me to this webinar. I think, this has been a very interesting conversation. Yeah, we invite other partners to reach out, because I think the only way that a lot of our organizations are going to survive and thrive in 2026 is through partnerships. Let's help build each other up. Let's try to do innovative, interesting, impactful things with the remaining resources that are out there. So we're all ears.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really looking forward to like all the things that are to come, and we are right we're right here with you. It's not like I was about to say I wish you all the best, but I'm like, nah, we're doing this together. So I think we'll be putting out a couple of updates as time goes on the work that we do together. And thank you very much, Whitney, for your time today, and thank you to everyone that registered and took part in this session. And let's see what we're able to do, and have a great week. And we'll catch up later. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.